I hear the music now. Oh,
Makes it a little easier, huh?
yeah. Oh, what are you doing down there? There you go. All right. Hello, everybody. If I seem a little delirious today, I probably am. I tried doing a live from the bees earlier, but I don't know. The internet wasn't working outside this metal building, and it was terrible. So I took it down. But I did lose like 5 pounds sweating in a bee suit. And I
Yeah.
ordered me another. I
Noticed.
ordered me another little point of view camera. I'll surprise you guys with it when it comes in. But the glasses weren't what I needed for the bees, so I did a little research. I found me another camera that I think will do a much better job, and I've got it ordered.
Cool.
And we'll see what it was when it comes in. So
Yeah.
how's
I
everybody?
uh, I looked at those glasses as well, but by the time I added the prescription to them and some of their limitations, I was like, nope, no, not paying
Yeah,
for that.
they're handy for some stuff, but I found another camera I think will work. And me having a 3D printer, I think the uses of it are going to be limitless because I can make my own little brackets and mounts and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be pretty cool because I'll actually be able to stream from places that I can't get to wirelessly. So that'll be cool. But we'll see how it goes. Uh, Glad to see everybody that decided to join us today. It has been a busy weekend here. I seen Steve has made a few videos in his basement, so I'm guessing you got everything put back together. Got all your boats and your floaties and stuff put away.
Uh, it's 90% there. Yeah, I had to tear apart my office. I had to tear apart the shop to yeah pull. I was smart enough, and I put in like rubber flooring and like the plastic garage flooring in the shop and such, so that in the case of a water emergency such as this, it wouldn't be ruined. However, you still got to dry it out. You still got to get things dried out from underneath it, and yeah, that was a bit of a pain. So my entire basement area was torn up, and it took me through, I think, Thursday evening into Friday before I started actually having my office reassembled. And then I've been pulling stuff back out of the shop, and so finally, yeah, finally got things organized enough to start working again. And it kind of motivated me that, when you start moving things around, you're like, I don't need this anymore. I'm tired of moving it. So
Yes,
um, I've
understand completely.
I took advantage of that to get rid of some stuff. I hauled a bunch of stuff down to our local electronics recycling place. I've got to take some stuff. They set up a flood collection site, and not a lot of my stuff was necessarily damaged from the flood and whatnot. But some I had some boxes and such. So gonna get rid of some of those things, and then I'm also gonna make another run to the dump, and the Habitat for Humanity restore, donate some things there and whatnot. Just it's time for a good purge. So
Yeah,
so yeah, it's taken me a little bit, but wanted to get some things back and going. Got a short out earlier in the week, and dropped a video today that was more aimed at beginners, but it's a lot of questions I've been getting, so took the time to put that one together and getting back to the swing of it.
yeah. Well, after the past couple of weeks of being backlogged with jobs, and of course, you know how it works with these companies. In April, you get all these emails about, hey, we got a new machine coming out. How you feel about us, letting you try it out? And you're like, oh, that'd be awesome. What time do you expect it? And they're like, sometime between June, July, and August. And so then next thing you know, you get like 8 shipping notifications in one day. And it's like, it's like, okay, everybody get in line. So I've been working on some of that because I got hit with the Ultra, the We Create 40 watt, and then I got hit with the Laser Pecker 4, uh, a honeycomb, and I got some material packs, which I'm really wanting to try to use the material packs this week. I'm wanting to start, maybe do a XCS, a couple of XCS videos, maybe a Lightburn video, and I'm gonna incorporate the equipment or the materials in with it because it's a pretty cool idea. The plywood that they sent me, I don't know how well it's going to work, but we'll find that out. And I thought maybe I would go ahead and get a head start on Christmas, maybe design some Christmas ornaments, use this stuff to do like layered to give it some color and just see how it works
Mhm.
out. So hopefully I'll be able to do some content that I enjoy. Contrary to popular belief, sometimes the review videos or testing videos or however you want to look at it videos can be a bit much because you're trying to cover everything with a machine in a week, and that's impossible, or 2 weeks, and it is entirely impossible to cover everything. But yeah, I've had fun with some of the testing, but some of it, as well as I do, it gets a little redundant. It's like, okay, let's do a material test on this, and let's,
Yeah.
so it's been fun. I enjoy seeing the new machines, seeing the technology that's out there, broadening my idea of what a laser should be, but at the same time, I got backed up. I got slammed, and I've had to throw stuff away because I needed shelving to be able to house these other machines and the smaller machines. The good news is smaller footprint means smaller storage area because I'm not going to be using them every day. So I had to come up with this is my little mini lasers are there, and then the not quite so mini lasers is there. And you'll notice that I got an upgrade. I got what I'm calling the Winn-Dixie upgrade for my Ultra,
See.
which is, yeah, it looks like the thing at the grocery store. I
Yeah.
mean, I, I, I asked them not to send me that because you see what a footprint that thing has now? Like, it's almost as big as my toolbox.
Right. Yeah.
But
It kind of
but
takes
we're
the
gonna
portability out away from it.
yeah, we're gonna try it out, and I kept the box just just so that once I get through trying it out, I can put it back in the box until I find a need for it. But
Yeah.
with all the machines that I have, I don't really see that that's something that I have to keep around. But we're gonna play with it as soon as I get caught up and see. But for now, this is my smaller lasers and my portable lasers storage area over there. So yeah, but so far, like I said, it's been some interesting technology, interesting machines. Y'all saw some of the what black acrylic or black acrylic black aluminum cards I did. Those turned out really nice. Uh, but now I got to go back and test some of the other machines to see how well they do. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I'm thoroughly impressed with some of this stuff. I mean, the contrast and the resolution of that little machine is pretty phenomenal. Speed, not so much, but accuracy and resolution is on point. So
Yeah. Uh, I don't have the four. I have the two. So I'd be really curious to see the if there's a quality difference between that and the F1 because that's one that really impressed me on its detail in
yeah,
engraving some of those business cards and such. Is that 10 watt IR on the F1?
yeah, I'm gonna do some some try to recreate these and see how well I get it to come out. But I also been cheating this week on stainless steel. I bought some black stainless dog tags, doing a negative image to get away from having to use Surmark or anything like that. These things are already black, and it doesn't take a whole lot of power with an IR to shine them up and basically have the effect that you put text on there, but really you just left text on there. So that's
Yeah.
pretty. That's pretty cool. This is what they look like before you engrave them, and then after you get done, it leaves the. Well, if I can get the light, man, this camera is terrible for this. There we go. There we go. There we go. But yeah, so if you didn't see the video, that was in the LP4 video. But I heard you've got the LP5 over there getting it warmed up, and we're gonna see how it goes. See if you can see if you can pull this off with the cards. I doubt you can because it's more powerful. Therefore, it's gonna have a bigger dot size. So good luck with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure in the IR how much that changes. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, they did send out. This is about all I can show you now. There's the box back there. Um, but
You're just
so
you're just
that
trying to build suspense. We know what you're doing.
well, it officially launches on I believe July 10th, and so I've got about a week here to put mine through the test and start figuring it out, and then you'll start seeing some of my impressions of it then. And yeah, there's a lot of these dual diode IR lasers coming out now. They're increasing the power, so it'll be interesting to see how the features and capabilities of them. Um, I don't know how much you're going to see any head-to-head ones, but but yeah, we'll try to give it a good run through on what it can and can do, maybe what it doesn't do as well, and yeah, people be able to figure out their impressions on that. But no, I also got uh, I dropped a video today on getting started with Lightbird, and in that featured my Lasermatic MK2. So I've got that set up down in the basement. It's a nice, comfortable shop down there. It's all air conditioned,
Mm-hmm.
usually dry, usually dry.
You just gotta wear your flippers when you're down there.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, that was a once in a what I forget what they call those things. 100-year flood or whatever.
I was gonna say
Um,
one in 100 years is what they call them.
yeah. So I'm excited to work with that some more. I got a number of projects coming out with that. So you'll be seeing that one more, and I'll be able to speak more to that as I run more projects through with that one. And yeah, I got a little bit of a lull here as far as events are going. So I'm going to try to get through some fun project stuff, some things I've been playing around with in my head. I want to get them into reality and such. So looking forward to that. And yeah, it sounded like it was. I mean, I caught your live earlier. Sounds like it's still pretty warm down there, but
Sure. Yeah,
we have been.
it's 81 in here, and that's with the air conditioner running.
Yeah, no, we after this past week of torrential rains and flooding, we were blessed with a pretty nice weekend here. I mean, I think the high yesterday was like 68. We
Yeah.
had a nice breeze, and the humidity was down low too, so I was able to turn the air conditioner off, open up the windows, get a lot of
What?
air moving through the house. Yeah,
Now you can literally hang little strips of beef on my front porch right now and make jerky because when the wind blows, it's really freaking hot. Like literally, I wish the video from the bees had worked today, but the glasses and the video and I live in one of those areas where there's not a lot of cell reception, so I'm dependent on Wi-Fi. And the 5 gigahertz network that I built in the shop works great in the shop, but outside, that metal building,
yeah,
not so much. And so it wasn't. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to have to get me another repeater and put outside while I'm doing it. And I just didn't have time to do all that today. And then, of course, the glasses were screaming they were overheating. And I was like,
yeah.
no crap. It's hot.
I know it seems like they're newer smartphones. I mentioned in your live when you had mentioned that my smartwatch. I'll start just modest exercising, and all of a sudden my phone's like, oh, I'm getting too hot. I'm going to need to shut down. I'm like, what good are you? You know,
Yeah.
they, these smart devices and whatnot are just seem way too sensitive to heat, and so they get a little
Yeah.
bit. Um, yeah, they're not as reliable when you need them sometimes that way. So
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely warm. But I figured out what I did figure out. Oh, what's up, Rich? How are you, sir? I'm glad to see you're on time.
yeah,
Punctuality is key. But yeah, I finally figured out though why my beehive, because when I put the beehive together, for some reason I had this gap in the front, and I'm like, what causes that? I thought maybe some moisture got into the hive because it was a rather new hive, maybe it warped, or something. No, no, oh, it was operator error. Apparently, at some point, I had set one of the hives on top of a entrance guard. It's a little piece of wood that has different size holes. You can turn it to allow more air in during different seasons. And apparently it had stuck to the bottom of that box. So when I stacked it, it was stuck to the propolis inside there, and I didn't notice it, and it was sitting wonky. Well, I got that fixed today, so hopefully now, because it's not that big of a deal now, because the bees they'll literally build walls and close things off, and they'll regulate. They have like little channels of air that they pull through, and they use their wings as fans to cool the hive and all that. But during the winter, that could have been a major problem if I hadn't fixed it. But I went ahead and got that fixed today, so But it was hot, man. It was hot, and trying not to wear those big leather gloves. I got stung twice, like literally in the first 30 seconds of the video.
Yeah.
It turned into a horror flick. And but I managed to get it done with only 3 stings. I had one on the arm here and two on my hands. But luckily, it seems like the more I get stung, the less it bothers me. And the good news is I have zero arthritis in this hand right now.
Mm.
Like bee stings is like a miracle cure. If you have arthritis, go stick your hands in a beehive because it literally it will cure the arthritis at least for 24 to 48 hours. So
You know, I gotta hope there's maybe a better way to deal with
hey,
it.
it works. It works.
Well, as
Mm.
long as you don't go into anaphylactic shock, I suppose.
Yeah, well, luckily I'm not allergic.
Yeah.
Uh, Now I did get stung like 18 times under a house one time trying to get a hive out from under the house, and it did make me sick.
Mm.
And for a while, I was like hypersensitive to bee stings, but that's slowly going away. Because like you can see my hand's not like all fat and stuff still. Like it swelled up just a little bit, and it went away. So
Mm.
that's good. But anyway, Burn Carve Print is asking F1 or LP4, and as always, it depends. My only hang up with the LP4, of course, is the the enclosure or lack thereof, or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really come readily designed with a place to connect ventilation hose to. They do sell a box that would have been a big upgrade, and I wish they'd have sent it to me for only like 160 something bucks. So I would definitely recommend adding that to your purchase if you're going to get one of those. Other than that, is there? I mean, they do the same stuff. You know what I mean? They have the same attachments. So that's the biggest difference. Is the F1? I do like the little sliding door. That's handy, especially at events. But
Mhm.
if I was going to take the LP4 to an event, I would definitely have that acrylic encasement that they sell to put around it, and it has like a little door with a magnet, so it would be much safer that way. It's one of the few machines that I can honestly say the mobile app was pretty cool. So if I had, let's say I had some stuff at work that I wanted to engrave, which I actually do, and that's my plan is to take this one, the LP4 with me to work because I can do it with my phone and not have to take a computer. We've got keys that fit like random doors, and they have these numbers that nobody knows what the number means. And so I'm going to take the brass keys and I'm going to engrave, like administrative offices or whatever on the keys instead of this number. And we have a whole bunch of like all of our fleet of cars. I'm going to take and make some anodized tags for the cars to put on the key rings to keep up with the keys in our fleet management box. So for that, if you had the little battery pack using your phone with this machine, it would be very, very portable. But you still got to deal with that little cone, which not a big fan of the cone, but I just took it off, disabled the little sensor, and wore the glasses, and it worked fine. I just had to make sure the cats didn't get too close.
Yeah. Yeah. Always got to worry about those furry friends.
Yes, because
Um,
especially if Brandy comes out here, like every cat in the shop will jump on this table. Like you don't see a cat right now, but let Brandy walk in here, and there'll be cats lining the edge of the table wanting to be petted.
yeah, I don't know. They were all over the place when I was there too. So maybe it's just you.
It's because I spend so
No,
much
I
time in here. I'm like the
I agree
furniture.
with you on the app. It's nice that their mobile app is very similar to their desktop app, and their
Yeah.
desktop app is quite similar to it's got a similar feel to XCS. Obviously different, but um, has a decent amount of functionality. It's nice to see that they've mostly replicated that into the mobile app as well. So definitely a bit of a bonus where you can, like you mentioned, you want to run it a little more portably, not have as much stuff to take. And yeah, they you can power it through the USB port, so any USB powered supply, like a battery bank or whatnot,
Hmm.
should run it for a little while. So
Yeah,
yeah.
if they had substituted the little battery box for that slide bed thing, I would
Hmm.
have been happy. I may actually use the rotary, but I'm not going to use that little slide bed. It doesn't index on the machine. And I guess Xtool has been watching my videos about these slide beds because the one thing I did learn about my grocery store checkout is they have a bracket that connects to the machine with two screws, and then it connects. Like there's this other little piece. It kind of sits down in there, and then you put screws that basically lines it up and keeps it in the same spot.
Hmm.
So that's a plus. I got to give them props on that. At least they did that, because if not, I don't think that thing would have been. It wouldn't have worked any better than the rest of them. But with that, as long as you can figure out how to keep your material square on that little rubber bed, it should work. So we're gonna be playing around with that in the future. Now that I've gotten kind of a band-aid on the on the situation, and play with it with some stuff. I do see that being handy for people that maybe that's the only machine they want, but they want to be able to engrave longer things. I don't think you'll be doing much cutting on it because it's rubber. So I think cutting on that conveyor would definitely be a no go. But for engrave it, if you wanted to engrave a 36-inch long piece of wood, or however long the limit is, I haven't even hooked it up and checked it, but I could see where it would be helpful. But we'll get to that one day. I also have all the attachments for the LP4, but I'm trying to come up with some projects to do, because I don't like just doing, okay, let's look at this machine. I like doing projects with them, and to give the guys that have the machine at least an idea, or the ones that are looking at getting it, what it's capable of. So it's pretty cool. Oh,
Yeah.
hey, keep complaining. Keep complaining about arthritis in them knees. Next time she says her knee hurts, I'm just gonna go grab a handful of bees.
Careful now.
We'll fix this.
You don't quite have that full facilities in your shack yet.
Yeah. Dwayne says that the cone, he agrees the cone is awful. And I mean, I guess if you're always doing the same, it's just it makes it hard to frame and everything. You can't move the material without raising it back up, putting it back down. It was clunky. I didn't care for it. Now, if I'm going to engrave a wall, okay, I'll take the cone. Because that way you can just push it up against the wall. But I think they kind of dropped the ball by not including the little box enclosure with it, like by default.
Well, I mean, I guess the thing to look at that is, and I haven't looked at the pricing, is for people who don't need it or don't want it, if it reduces the price some and leaves it as an option versus, having to
Yeah.
have it, you know, X Tool kind of takes that the other way. Is like you get the base laser and you pay a fair amount for it, and then you got the add-ons as well. So
Yeah.
um, I can appreciate certain aspects when they leave something as optional and it actually returns as a bit of a savings to the consumer when they don't really need it. So
Yeah. Well, Tim says it's going to be interesting when you get to do the Pecker 5.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if we can ever get him to quit playing in the water over there and get to work, we'll get it done. Uh, Kevin is saying, "Hey guys, when I set up my lens on my fiber, it's a 110 millimeter, but using EasyCAD from the manufacturer, it makes it a 126 millimeter. Do I use that or use the 110? The lens is going to make a difference. You should have a different profile for each lens. You'll have a 110 lens profile and then whatever other lens you have. But each lens has a specific like shape profile, so to speak, that has to be put into the software. Am I right on that? I mean, I'm still a rookie on the
Mhm.
galvos.
Yep.
And if we knew what machine it was, we might could help you out, because I know our com marker B4s both have 110 lenses. So if it's a com marker, we probably have the software that you need, or the file that you need.
Yeah.
Mm.
Here's an interesting question. Might affect me more than you. But Extreme Elements is asking, do either of us need to pull permits for laser users at home? Speaking from business wise sense. Um, and here, no, because uh, they're more concerned about, if you're doing retail business out of your home and you're not zoned for commercial, That's more of what they're concerned of, as well as kind of the volume of stuff you're doing. And if I was trying to bring in like heavy industrial equipment and going to be making a lot of noise and requiring extra power, things like that, then they're going to start asking a lot of questions. But as more of a I'm more classified as more of just a home based, almost as like a hobby business. I don't have, retail hours. I don't have showroom. I don't have regular, commercial or retail traffic coming here. So um, now on the flip side, insurance guy is far more interested in what I'm doing than the city from that standpoint. So it's good to check out with both the city as far as what you're okay to do as a home-based business, because every municipality is going to be different. And then also insurance-wise, what is or is not covered because you are doing business, and then what type of business insurance you might need, because it might be different for what you're doing at home versus if you're out at events and such. So lots of things to look into. And with the recent flooding and landsliding and everything, there's even more, even just your normal insurance, you'd be surprised what is not covered. So,
Yeah. Well, here where I live, I'm in an unincorporated part of the county, and we have no inspections, we have no permitting, we have no nothing. I can literally do whatever I want to do. Like I could build a house and build it off my sawmill. It doesn't. There's no rule saying I can't. Matter of fact, most of this shop was built, the interior anyway, off the sawmill. Now, not much of the structural parts, but the cosmetic parts of the shop, the walls and stuff like that, are all off sawmill. In some places, you can't use sawmilled lumber that has not been graded and scored for anything structural per building codes. But now I've got a building up on top of the hill. The entire thing's built out of stuff off the sawmill because there again, we don't have those inspections, and it's literally a little outbuilding. Now I can say from working for a municipality and being part of the folks that have to enforce a lot of those ordinances and stuff like that, depending on where you live, zoning the zoning is what you're going to want to look at. You really have to kind of start doing some heavy lifting before you're zoned as commercial. A laser in your basement, the ones that we use typically aren't going to get you there, no more than if you own a table saw would. But now, if you start bringing in, 1.5 kW lasers that require three-phase connection and all that, then you may get into the industrial area, and you may need to check with the zoning board before they find you out. But other than that, hobby machines, even with the CNCs, uh, the the municipality is going to just consider that a hobby grade, even if you're doing it as a business. You're going to have to get really big before it becomes commercial in most places. Now, there may be some cities that are a lot more strict, but where I'm at in the small town, it's not. You have to get some pretty heavy equipment before you have to be zoned commercial.
yeah, I think your biggest concern there is, I mean, you should always do it right. You should always check into it and follow local code and whatnot. But if your neighbors are happy, you're probably not going to have a problem.
Kevin is saying it's the com marker, and when he imports the file and the light burn from EasyCAD, it rings it up to 126. Says he watched the video, couldn't know if it shows make it 126 or 120, 110. Let me go ponder at mine, and I'll see what mine says. I don't use EasyCAD. I did like for the initial setup. It didn't take me long to realize that I did not want to run EasyCAD. It
Yeah.
wasn't. It wasn't something that I wanted to learn. So my EasyCAD uh, experience is very low. Let's see. Uh, see, let me go right down here. All right, so on mine, this is the settings for mine. It's it's showing it's 127.5 is the field. I don't think, or 127 is the field, but this is what I've been running. This is the same, the EasyCAD for ComMarker B4. This is a 110 correction file. So that's what I've been running and haven't had any problems. But I think you're talking about this number up here, and I don't. I don't think that applies if you load this correction file. I think that's why that's grayed out. So I think that's just the default value that was in there, because if you notice, you really can't change this. So I have no idea about that. Somebody that knows more about galvos might could tell you. But if yours looks like that, then more than likely it's correct, unless they're all messed up, because I used the same file that they sent with the machine and I haven't noticed any problems with it. So hope that helps. Maybe it will. But I don't want to go messing with my settings, or I would change it and see if that number changed. But I don't really want to go messing with it. It's been working too good. So I'm not changing my settings. That would really make me angry when I went to use it again. That didn't work.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, if that's what you're talking about is that number, I would just run the machine and test to see if it's working correctly, and go from there. Because I don't know the correlation between those numbers, but it looks like this is going to do that when you import that file. Da, da, da.
Stan's got a question about the Comgrow Z1 10 watt. Question is about max speed. Been told it's 5,000 millimeters a minute, but I'm pretty sure it's 10,000 or 12,000. Would you guys know the correct max speed? And one of the best things you could probably do is go in and actually read from the controller what is set on it. So in Lightburn, if you just go into the console and hit $, hit enter, it's going to list off all of your settings, or you can go into the edit menu and device settings and look there. You'll be able to see the various speeds for each of the axes that are actually on the controller itself. And then you can know in your software where you can set it to. It's been a while since I've played with my Comgrow Z1. I actually sent that off with a friend who's been using it as a tumbler machine. And so I unfortunately don't have it to reference, but you should be able to pull the information that way.
Yeah, and a lot of times too, I mean, 10,000. Let's see, 10,000 millimeters per minute. Y'all know I'm terrible at math. So that's what, 166 millimeters per second. I would think it would go faster than that. I know a lot of the Atom Stack machines are set like from the factory at like 30,000. So I'd be curious if it can't go faster than that. I mean, because I know I ran my Z1, the original Z1, I ran it faster than 166 at times.
Well,
So
you may have inputted it that, but it doesn't mean it actually went that fast either.
true, true. The controller is probably not going to let you overspeed it anyway.
Right.
But yeah.
Aaron mentions his says it's 6,000 for the Z1.
6,000 millimeters or per minute or per second?
Yeah, most of the world with diodes works in millimeters per minute, so you can kind of assume
That's awful slow.
that's what they're talking about. I recall it was not that fast, and so I think he's pretty accurate there. So. Oh, let's see.
There you go.
Multi-layer exhaust system. Well, I'm glad the 4-inch pipe holders worked well. I need to scale those up for 6-inch. Actually going to be working on a project myself, and I know a few other people have asked about that as well. As some of us are getting crazy with our exhaust systems and running multiple lasers off them, but glad that worked out. Love to see what you did sometime if you want to send some pictures into the group or whatnot. So.
STL, what is IWF? That's the International Wild Turkey Foundation?
No, it's a big woodworking expo. I believe that's down in Atlanta. A lot of commercial stuff, a lot of big woodworking places.
Yeah, I don't really have plans to. Is it like I'll be honest with you, I don't know anything about it. I'd have to look into it. I do plan on being at Workbench Con next year. I actually may even my other half may even be coming with me. The way it looks.
Yeah, International Woodworking Fair. It's in Atlanta, Tuesday, August 6th through Friday that week. And yeah, I mean, they've got some monster machines there,
Mm,
in all sorts of woodworking. I know some of my friends from We Built a Thing podcast are going to be going to that as well. So unfortunately, that roils into my Model Airplane Club's Warbird event, and then also right before our semester, our faculty start coming back like a week or so after that. So
yeah.
August gets to
Oh,
be kind of busy for me and hard to get away for those things.
yeah. I have to look at it and see. I don't really have any plans to, but I'll look at it and see what all kind of stuff they're gonna have. I mean, Atlanta's only like a 3 hour ride for me, but if it costs a good bit to get there, I probably won't. If it's mostly for like sure enough woodworking, because I don't know if
Well, you
I'd have
could
to
check out
research it.
some CNC machines that are bigger than your shop.
Yeah, and I have absolutely no need for it, nor do I have the funds to finance that. So, oh
Come on, it'd just
yeah,
be kind of fun.
I am content with what I got. I mean, I've yet to use the full 4 foot by 4 foot over there. Now, I am considering maybe next year upgrading the spindle and getting me a bigger water cooled spindle.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. But no, I have no need for anything more than that. I mean, that one is steady chunking out jobs and paying for itself. So I'm good. Once it pays for itself, then we'll reevaluate. But I don't see me needing anything more than that, unless I like land a. If I was to land a customer that needed like 300 parts a week, okay, maybe then. But
You'd
if I
get bored
did
with
that,
that.
I'd have to build a shop to put it in. You know what I mean? Do I?
Yeah, and you'd get bored with it.
Oh, I would, and that's why I don't. That's why I don't really see me needing anything commercial because I'm a one-off kind of guy, custom stuff
Yeah,
kind of guy. It
yeah.
about drove me crazy
Um,
last week trying to get all May stuff done.
so it's fairly cheap just to go walk
Oh,
the
is it twenty
floor
five
and
dollars?
network. Yeah, if you're just
I'll
going
have
to
to
like
look at it.
as a basic attendee, it's pretty cheap to get in, and you never know. I know other content creators and whatnot have gotten some deals out of there working with
Let's see what days it
laser
is.
companies and stuff.
If it's a weekend getaway, maybe if I don't have to take
Yeah, I
Tuesday
think it's
6th or
Tuesday
no,
through Friday.
yeah, the day job's probably gonna get in the way on that one.
Yeah, but
Maybe next year. We'll see.
Extreme Elements, thanks for the super chat. Not needed, but always appreciated. They're asking, is
Thank
a
you.
diode, specifically the MK2XW 30 watt, a good starter business machine, or should I be focusing on getting a CO2 engraving greater than cutting? So, you could probably listen to a lot of us who've had them in the past. It used to be that the diodes, when they were half watt up to 2.5 watt, they were kind of like just toys. But since getting into the 10, 20, 30 watt and now on up to 70, they are performing very well. And as long as the form factor, the size works for you, the limitations and differences between them are getting less and less. Now you're always going to have that difference in the fact that the wavelength can't interact with certain materials. You're not going to be able to do a lot of acrylics unless they're dark opaque. Those are going to be some of the limitations. And with the CO2, it can be faster, and you can get it. It's easier to get a larger machine, but with that comes some complexity of maintenance and mirror alignment and things like that. So from a getting started standpoint, especially like the XW machine, being a little bit wider, it's going to give you a little more working area, and it's going to be easier to get going with that. And unless you're doing things that are outside that working area, you're probably going to be hard pressed to find a need to upgrade. And like Clack and others have done, often instead of jumping up to a CO2, they add an additional diode machine. Now, again, that's going to depend on if something else pushes you towards a CO2, such as acrylic. or maybe a much larger bed size and such. There are definitely reasons to go that path, but um, depending on the work you're doing and such, a diode is going to do quite well for you. Just starting out with it. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, like you said, it's kind of like if you, I'm a firm believer in with the right mindset, the right plan, and enough work, you can make a living with almost any tool. You can start a business. Now, you're going to have to evolve. If let's say you started your own lawn care business with a push mower, the more customers you get, the busier you get, you're going to have to evolve your equipment to keep up with demand. And I think the same is true with lasers. You can kind of look at a diode as being the push mower. Yeah, push mower by itself, it's not what you really want for a lawn care business, but you got low overhead, so you're not coming out of the gate struggling and getting frustrated because I've got this $8,000 machine sitting here and I can't do the jobs to pay for it. So the what I would recommend is if you're already in the market and I got a customer that's going to spend $3,000 a month with me, hey, bite the bullet, do what you want to do. But you need to pace yourself and don't get too in debt over your head. Don't invest a bunch of money thinking that you're going to turn around in 6 months and get all your money back. And I see channels with lasers, CNCs, any kind of tool alike, talking about how to make 10,000 or how to make 20,000 or how to make 1,000 or there's no guarantee. I mean, what works for Steve might not work for me. Steve's personality, he may be able to walk into a bar and sell them coasters, custom bottle openers. They may buy him out when he goes in there. I may go in there and the owner look at me and go, I ain't buying nothing from you. So there's a lot of variables that goes into that. And you're going to get frustrated if you're having to push yourself so hard to try to make ends meet. It's a lot more rewarding when you spend $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 on a machine, and within a month you've sold enough work to kind of pay back what you spent. Because now every dollar you make is more or less profit. So that's what I did. I started out with a 10-watt X Tool D1 doing just random things for people. I'd come up with little projects, post them on Facebook. People buy them, $25, $50. I'd make something for my wife, post a picture of it on Facebook. She'd sell it, make $25, $50. Then tell me to make her another one. And it slowly grew. When I started getting orders for, 100 of this or 100 of that, that's what I said. I told Brandy, I'm like, look, I've got my money back from my first laser. I'm going to buy another laser, which was the D1 Pro. It was a 20 watt. And it was like, that's when 20 watts had first came out, and it was like the go-to machine. So I got me a D1 Pro 20 watt, and instead of just having the one machine, now I had two. And so I was doubling my productivity. Well, then I moved into three, and now I'm at, like, if I call all hands on deck, I can run 5 diode lasers. Well, I can have 4 diode lasers going and a CO2 and be cranking out jobs on every one of them. And that's the approach that I take. Instead of having an elephant, I got like 20 donkeys. And so it does the job because, by itself, one machine, yeah, it's going to be hard to ever make a lot of money with one machine. But with two, with three, it's just like you see these guys that are doing 3D printing. They don't have just one 3D printer. They got like 50. They started out with one. Yeah, they started out with one, and then they made some money with it. Then they went to two. They made money with them. Then they went to 4, 6, 8, and it just keeps going. And to me, if you gradually grow your business, it's a lot less stressful and a lot less panic than if you try to jump in it. You try to jump in the deep end of the pool on your first swim, it could go really bad for you. So just avoid the get rich quick things, in my opinion. Figure out what works, because it takes some time. You're gonna have some failures. You're gonna have some things that you think are the coolest things that slice bread, and nobody's gonna buy them. And then you're gonna have this thing that you think is the dumbest thing ever, and it's gonna be the latest craze.
Yeah.
Stove covers.
Yeah. Well, and also, just looking at a business sense too, um, it's easier to get a quality diode machine than, say, a quality CO2. And if you're going to be relying on your business, you want to make sure that it's, if you have problems, you can get support. Or maybe you can afford a duplicate machine so you can be running two, or if worst case scenario one goes down, you're not just dead in the water. So, it's really gonna, like you say, you start out with the push mower, and sometimes the push mower is the more efficient machine. I mean,
Yeah, you may go
they're
buy
one
10
of
of them.
yeah, and there's a lot of I was a kid. I used to mow lawns, and as much as I dreamed about, oh, just imagine if I had that right. Well, by the time you drive around, pull the trailer, unload, load, you could have had the bulk of the lawn done with just, you know, hopping on your bike,
Yeah.
pulling the push mower over there and getting it done. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's there's no one perfect laser for every business. There are definitely some better ones um, that are going to get you off and going easier. But I would definitely try to scale up from small first and minimize your headache and minimize your investment. So,
That's
um,
just like me. I'm still running a job site DeWalt table saw. Why? Because the number of jobs that I use a table saw on, it really doesn't justify the expense of a bigger table saw. Not yet. Maybe one day, but not yet. So, just let the jobs dictate your growth. And you brought up a valid point too. If you go buy that $10,000, $12,000 CO2, what happens when you get this massive order in on Monday, and then Tuesday you crack a lens, or your tube goes out, or the power supply goes bad, or now your machine is dead and you have no backups. To where with me, that's why people see the machines hanging on the wall. I keep a backup for every enclosure that I have. That way, if my A40 Max or X40 Max over here dies, I'm throwing an H or V35 in there and I'm back in service. If the A70 dies, I'm dropping the longer 30 watt in here and I'm getting back in service. So you got to take that into consideration too, because equipment failures can and will happen regardless of how well you maintain. It's Murphy's law. Something's going to break.
mhm. um, along those lines, question from Fresh Prince of Bel Air. What's a good CO2 machine to start out with? Um, it's going to a little bit depend on your comfort with uh, self maintenance and maybe doing a little tinkering. You could definitely save a lot of money and go the route of some of these generic lasers, or even an Ohmtech or Monport. But if you want to get into kind of a little bit higher quality, a little bit higher price, probably a little bit better support, you want to maybe be looking at like Thunder Laser. Is a good one that they've got some decent support without jumping quite to the price range there. Um, I've also heard good things about Rabbit Laser. They're a US based company. They import some machines and then they do some more work building on them as well. Those are a couple of companies I have had tangential experience with. There's a lot of other great ones out there. I mean, you can, spend a lot of money on it. But yeah, if you're not afraid of tinkering and whatnot, you can definitely get a deal on some of these kind of just rebranded Chinese lasers that you're probably going to end up doing a little more maintenance yourself on. You may get support via, you're going to contact your sales guy who's going to hand you off to someone that is definitely not in the U.S. or even North America. So you're going to need to be ready for that. But yeah, it's uh, definitely something that I would take a little bit of time and reach out to the salespeople and kind of get a feel for that route before you dump some money on any CO2 laser.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I got a buddy of mine that bought a Monport CO2 and he likes it. He went from two D1s to it, but he had a garage with the space for it. And, you know, those machines aren't all that expensive as long as you have the space. And it does, I've ran it, helped him set it up, and it does a good job. But like with me, I don't have the space to dedicate to that machine that he bought. Really, I mean, if I got rid of two or three machines, I could clear up enough space. But I like the versatility and the ease that comes with the diodes. Because if his machine tears up, you got to roll it outside or something to put something in its place. If one of these tears up, I can literally hang it on the wall, put another one
Yeah.
in the enclosure, and go back to work.
Yeah,
So
that's this thing, where is it? Right there, the red and black. I'd be a poor weatherman.
Yeah.
It's been a great machine, but I mean, I went into that knowing that I was going to have to kind of self support, and it does. You're right. It only has like a what is it? A 27-inch by roughly 17 and a half inch working area, but the whole thing takes up probably 4 or 5 feet wide, 3 feet deep. Plus, then I've got
Yeah.
the chiller on the side. I've got the blower on. I mean, they take up a fair amount of space.
Yeah.
So yeah, it right now is a glorified shelf, and it's just kind of in the way. And I should either do something with it, or find someone that wants to tinker and move on. But there are a lot, and Rich there mentioned the Quite 55 Cloud has worked really great for him for a couple of years now. There's a lot of these kind of more desktop style that you're going to get close to that working area. Generally they're going to be roughly 12 by 20 or 24 ish, and in that 50 to 60 watt range that you'll see. And there's some good options if you're kind of making that jump from diode into CO2, but you're not making that jump into like bigger projects, but you want to open up the into the acrylics, and maybe just have CO2s do they give a different burn. They're actually you might get a cleaner burn on your edge, so your caramelization might not be as dark. But when engraving, you almost have to defocus them a little bit so that the burn gets a little more sintered. Then it almost is just this kind of more tan caramel color in some of the woods, versus I feel like the diodes and their wavelength and frequency kind of give it a little more singed and darkened look quite often. So there's just a variety of things to look at and consider. But yeah, and the nice thing is that there's been a lot of development. There's been a lot of push towards lasers definitely used to be a very much of a commercial thing. It was odd to find someone with a garage laser in their workshop. Now it's becoming far more commonplace, and so you're getting a lot more options, kind of in that. I don't know that blend between hobby grade and small business grade. So
Yeah. Yeah. Mark's saying that shop footprint is a major consideration for CO2 lasers, at least with the higher power ones. It makes sense for transitioning from diodes. And yeah, that's my thing. I mean, as my projects get bigger, uh, maybe maybe I will. But if it's too big, I got a 4 foot by 4 foot CNC over there. I can't engrave per se. Well, I could. I actually saw a video on a new laser module that could be put on that. I just don't have a need for that. It's just not something I look at getting into. If I'm going to do something that's 4 foot by 4 foot, chances are I'm gonna do it with the CNC and a V bit rather than a laser. So
mhm.
it's because it's just easy for me to mask it, engrave it and then spray it with some black paint. It almost the same effect, and sometimes you can even get a more three-dimensional, because with a V bit, you can raise and lower and do cool graphics and stuff. So to me, the set of tools that I have work great for what I do. Like I said, everybody's is different. You got to figure out, like somebody said a while ago, you got to figure out the materials you're going to be working with and what kind of things you want to make, and then figure out the power of the laser and the size of the laser from there, because you don't want to get one that's too small. But I will tell you this: you're probably, if you buy a one diode laser, it's probably just going to be your first diode laser. You're probably going to wind up getting more. Uh, it's very addictive.
Mhm.
All right. So yeah, STL, have a good one. Maybe I'll let you know if I decide on that event. I don't know. A lot of stuff going on with the family and work, and you never know. Retired life's going to be good to me though. When I get retired, I'll be able to do a lot more stuff. 14 months, Steve. 14 months.
Yeah, well, that's
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy for you, really.
No, you're not. You're a little bitter about it. Oh, let's
You know,
see.
I'm
Chris, go ahead.
I'm just glad that well, this next week is probably going to be pretty tiring for me as well, because we like tonight, tomorrow, July 1 is when we flip over finance system, our HR system,
Ooh.
our all of our record system. And I'm glad we're kind of at this point in this project, because this is dating back to like 2018 for me. Um, and it's going to be going on for a few more years as we roll in our student system. But yeah, uh, the more and more of these projects that come up and whatnot, I'm just kind of going, I'm not sure I'm going to make my retirement date in my current job.
Yeah. Chris said he upgraded his CO2, so now he has to build a separate shed, separate lasers and CNC machines due to CNC CO2 footprint. And that's what you get into. Like I said, you have to. When I was picking out the CNC, I was torn between getting the 2 foot by 4 foot or whatever it is, 30 whatever by 48, and getting the full 48 by 48. I have yet to use the entire 48 inches, but now I have exceeded 30 something. So I've used it, but I had to make that decision. Am I willing to give up this much space to have a tool to do the things that come up from time to time? And for the cost difference, I just decided, what the heck, I'll make do. So
Yeah. Yeah. If someone would come up with, I'm just looking for that 36 by 24 inch, kind of the wide bed laser. Someone would come up with that in kind of a desktop compact format. I think I would be happy. I wouldn't have to, I'd be done. That's all I need.
yeah. Well, about that, I had I actually considered the other day. I was like, I should have got them to send me that 850 by 850 A70 and just chopped the side rails off of it and shortened it to like 850 by 600. That would
Yeah.
be cool. Oh, what in the world? What is this?
You got another cheerleader for retirement.
Oh my gosh. Always, always, always on me. That's all I can say. Mark
Yeah.
said he plans to spend that shop footprint for a 4 foot by 4 foot Onefinity CNC. Like I said, you may never use that 4 foot by 4 foot, but it's nice to know that you got it if you need it.
Yeah, and if you have the space in your shop for it, the crazy thing is going a little bit bigger in machine size with everything else the same, it doesn't exponentially increase the cost of the machine. A lot of the cost is in the controller and the wiring and the spindle and all that jazz. Whereas an extra, 12 inches on the rails and whatnot, it doesn't add as much. So if you've got the shop space for a larger CNC, yeah, like Clark says, you're going to use that much of the space, like probably 2 to 5% of the time, if that. But when you need it and want it, it'll be nice to have. But that's assuming you got the shop space for it, because the rest of the time it's going to be sitting there taking up that floor. So
Yeah. I'm not going to throw Corey's comment up there because there's some language in it, but Corey's saying that he got a laser in a small town nowhere and trying to get some jobs. He found out there's 10 other people doing it. Thankfully, they haven't ventured out from tumblers and earrings, so he has the edge. And that's true. Like I said, even though 100 people in your area are doing it, they might not be doing what you're doing. And it's just like my stove cover thing. I've had like 5 people contact me and say, "Hey, I watched your video. I went to my local, home sales place, and they're ordering them from me now, like 3 or 4 a week." And they were like, "Thanks for the tip." And one guy was like, "I had never heard of them, but I made one and I took it and showed it to them, and they loved it. So now I'm selling them to them." So you when you find that thing, you just gotta get the name out there. But just like shoes, there's hundreds of companies that make shoes, but it's a lot of it is in the marketing. Crocs, for God's sakes, we all know Crocs were not that great of a shoe, but they had a good marketing campaign and they found a niche that nobody else was in. And once they got a good toehold, it's hard for anybody to get rid of them. So that's kind of what you need to do. Come up with a product that you can kind of like get out there and then just market it and establish yourself in that market. And it's a little harder for people to overcome you.
can
So
can you really get a good toe hold when you're wearing Crocs? I mean, is that actually possible?
yeah, they actually have all kinds of shoes now. They got those little ones with the toes in them now, I think.
Uh, well, at least you're off the hook for grocery shopping.
Hey, she lets me start doing the cooking. We'll have a cooking channel. How about that? I'll show you how
Really?
to fry them livers up. She'll come
Mm,
home every day. I have that fry daddy out, loaded down with some chicken livers, or maybe some gizzards, just to exercise your jaws a little bit.
I think you do that, you're gonna find your retirement date gets pushed back a little bit further because you won't be able to pay the bills anymore.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aaron said he's having to kick the four wheelers out in the yard. Yeah, I got rid of bicycles early on. I got rid of a lot of stuff. I called myself today. Today I was trying to give stuff away because I was trying to make room for machines. It's kind of like Steve said. You're like, this thing that I've been holding on to, this little project I did or whatever. It's no longer as important as it used to be. I need the space, so it's got to go. So
Yep. Yeah, yeah, it's, even, so I was taking some electronics to recycling, and the local place we have a deal with the city that they'll take so much just small electronics for free from if you live in the city proper, and then they'll give you a discount on appliances. Well, I had this aquarium chiller that I used years ago when I had my first got my CO2, and I was being too cheap and didn't want to buy the real commercial chiller, and I ran that with a pump through a like a 5 gallon reservoir and such, and it worked. But then I got the real chiller, and it's just sat, and it's just sat. And I kept thinking like maybe I'll use it on something, maybe I'll use it on something. I'm like, you know what? I've moved it more times than I've ever going to use it. I have no idea the condition of the internals at this point, so I brought it with. They charged me. This thing is like about the size of a computer case. And they charged me as an appliance, but it was only $8 because of our discount. So I was like, yes, please just get it out of my hair, get it out of the way. So
mm.
yeah, sometimes you just got to cut your losses and make room for other things.
Big Heart's asking, would the X Tool Ultra be good investment for doing tumblers on site craft shows? Uh, it'll do them, and doing them at craft shows, especially doing tumblers, you can't close the door on it all the way. Uh, that would be a concern that you might want to come up with some type of secondary, uh, blocking between you and whoever you're doing them for. If you're doing it in an open area, there are other machines. Case in point, this guy behind me that you can put them in there and close the lid on. That might be a little more suited for doing tumblers at events. But you could also build yourself a little enclosure and set it in there, because I've done enclosures, I've done tumblers with it so far, and you can't let it all the way down because it'll hit the either the tumbler itself or at least the RA2, the little window hits it. So that if that's a concern for you, and you don't want to get anybody trying to sue you because they say they got blinded, and if they're seeing the light, that can happen. So I would probably take extra precautions if I did that. Uh, and tumblers do take a little bit longer, and also you've got to understand too that certain materials give off a lot stronger odor. Tumblers being one of, probably other than acrylic, tumblers being one of the loudest chemical smelling smells that you could have. So you're going to have to really come up with a way of getting that smoke and vapor and everything pulled away. I would probably avoid doing tumblers at events and just maybe take orders, have some demos sitting out there and take orders, and do like a 1 week pickup or 3 day pickup or whatever. Because there's just so many things that you have to deal with. I try to stick with either wood, natural substance that if a little smoke does escape, it's no different than a campfire, or the anodized stuff, which you really can't even smell most of it when you're engraving it. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of odor with the anodized, but you get some of those painted, powder coated things and such. Yeah, it's definitely something to be concerned about. So, um, yeah, portability is that's a question everyone's going to have to answer for themselves because you know, um,
yeah, it's not as highly portable as folks think.
yeah, it's even the typical, like the Lasermatic, it's great. It's an all-in-one platform. Everything's kind of keyed together, but it's it's a bit to move. Um, So, kind of keep that in mind too as you're looking at your mobile setups. What's the most you need and what can provide the most safe environment for your customers and attendees. So,
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. The Ultra weighs more than it's probably right up there with the MK2, the regular one. 'Cause it's not light. They packed a
hmm
lot of stuff in that thing because it's
hmm
the main part of the chassis is actually steel, like or some type of metal. But it's not a pushover. You can't one hand that thing. You're gonna have to use at least both hands and have a good strong back. And if you put the little grocery store conveyor on it, then you're probably gonna have to have some help moving it because you'll be broke it if you're not careful. So,
Question on your rattle can holder for the wall. Do you have a file for that on Etsy?
did I put that on Etsy? I don't know. Maybe. I'll have to look. I don't know. I've been so busy. I may not have. Uh, Now, like I said, there's lots of those out there, but let me check.
All right. While
Well,
you're looking for that,
maybe not.
Stan's commenting. He's got a 40-foot shipping container. It's so tempting to put my shop into. I've seen a number of people do that. They get the shipping container and they convert it into a nice workshop. And considering those things are generally sealed up when their doors are shut, you're it's not a bad idea, but you generally have to cut some stuff into it to make it work. And I've seen some people insulate them, but I don't have the space for it. I don't think my neighbors would appreciate one of those being dropped in my yard. But I have seen them work out okay.
Okay, no, I just realized why I haven't put it on Etsy yet. The one that I built is for that 4.5 millimeter material that I get, and I was doing some modifications and some testing, and I was going to resize it for similar, like 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, all that to allow more flexibility without people calling me about not being able to resize the fingers. And I
hmm
haven't done it, and I haven't done it yet. So maybe if I get caught up, if people are interested in it, I guess I could. It's functional. I mean, it's not it's not groundbreaking or anything, but it is functional. I'm using it. My buddy Bill printed him some out and is using them, and Klein's printed him out a few and using them, and so far everybody likes them. So, but I'll try to write myself a note because I'm forgetting stuff. I'll write it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I did start on it. But I was waiting to do some long term testing. I did send the file to Bill and Klein and told them to use the file, burn it, and let me know if they had any problems. But they use the same size material I do, and they said it worked great for them. But they're using the exact, like they source their materials in the exact place I do, which that store loves me. They never sold that stuff until I started buying it. Now they can't keep it. Let me write this down. Paint can holder. All right, I got myself a note. Maybe I'll remember.
Let's see here.
Wow. Well,
Dark
hello,
Dark Force Mage
Rich. Thank you,
asking.
sir.
Dark Force Made is asking. I've been asked to make some salt boxes. What would be some good woods to do this with? What would cut well? Um,
Salt. Salt. What's a salt box?
Well, I'm familiar. I've heard them called like salt cellars, or I was just trying to make sure there wasn't something different. Um, Typically, what I've seen for those is they're more of like a round container, have kind of a swivel top, and it just holds salt, and then you can sprinkle it on your food and such. But a lot of times those are made out of hardwood, like solid wood, and like they're milled out, like with a CNC or something. You could replicate something similar with a laser, but um, you'd either be stacking rings up and gluing it together, or doing like some finger jointed square box kind of deal. um, I've seen them made out of a lot of different materials. There's a lot of them that are out of just bamboo, but then acacia wood. Generally you're looking for a type of wood that's going to be food safe and such, so you're going to want to stay away from your spaltids and your walnut and other things that might have oils that are not good for that. Um, but as you know, I guess I would have to look to see what type of design you do with the laser on that. Because if you laser cut them and stack them, then you might have um, you'll have the laser part exposed. There's one I'm seeing that's made out of cherry wood that looks like it's laser cut with finger joints and such. So I don't know. I guess if it was myself, I'd probably stick with some of the traditional like cherry, walnut, or if you can get it, some acacia wood type things.
Yeah. Yeah, if you start
Uh,
doing finger joints with like quarter inch, like just planks of regular wood, you do need to make sure you pay attention to the grain because those finger joints will not stick around too good if you go across the grain with them. They'll snap right off. Learned that one the hard way with lasers.
Yeah, Rich is saying salt boxes made for chefs usually oak. Yeah, I'm just as as Dave will tell you, I'm not a huge fan of oak. It's overused up
He
here,
he doesn't
Minnesota.
like oak. Like I offered to send him home with some oak, and he's like, "Why do I want that?" I'm like, it's awesome wood. If
Yeah,
it's not black walnut or what was that? What's the other one you sent down here to me? Was it birch?
yeah, I brought some birch, and then I think maybe you got some elm.
Elm. Yeah, yeah. So we don't have that here. We have oak. That's what we use is oak.
It's just
Hey, if it's good enough for whiskey barrels, it's good enough for plaques.
well, if I've got to have it, I'd prefer it be white oak, but it's
Yeah.
just not my palate, So
Oh, see, Super Duty said he uses oak. Look at there.
and cherry,
Everybody
see,
likes oak. Yeah,
well,
cherry's not a bad wood. Corey saying, since you're close to retirement, maybe do a video of the benefits of investing in lasers and other supportive equipment that isn't labor intensive for our later years. Always looking forward. Sorry for my example. Uh, well, I kind of do those all the time, but I could kind of throw one together, I guess, with that in mind. I am considering having a karaoke party here at the shack when I get ready to retire. And we're going to do it like it's going to be a live event karaoke party. So I'm going to get Steve to
ah,
also be doing karaoke on his side. And I figure I'll just play the music from my end and put the words on the screen, and Steve can just sing to it. So what do y'all think? Is that a good idea?
um, so as you're putting together this retirement video, are we going to start seeing a lot of affiliate links to like ARP and medic alerts and
Oh,
what was that one? Help! I've fallen. I can't get up. Um,
yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I'm not going to tell you some of the junk mail I've been getting.
the
but, uh, but yeah.
those
Oh, well,
the electric scooter
thank you
chairs.
there, Ricardo. I appreciate it. Too kind, sir. Uh, Lance, no, I haven't really done a comparison necessarily. There are differences in the two. Like I said, the biggest one being the enclosure method as far as the power outputs and the capabilities. Other than the dot size, that's the only thing that I think could be different, but I haven't had a chance to really test both of them and see if there's a noticeable difference. Because even if there's a statistical difference, it may not be noticeable in the final product. So we'll find out.
Kevin, just a little bit,
Mr.
but
Fancy Pants.
it's more of just what is available up here. I mean, we have a lot of oak up here as well, but the fact that we have a lot of black walnut, we have a lot of cherry, we got a lot of maple and whatnot. And I have multiple friends that have sawmills as well, so it's fairly easy for me to get my hands on some of these other
Mm-hmm.
varieties as well. So, but I mean, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on redoing the stairs to my basement, and yeah, I went with oak because they're a solid wood. and it was cheap and easy to get some of it because not everybody likes it around here. So I'm using that for the stairs going down, stairs, the stair treads going downstairs. So yeah, it's but yeah, a little bit of a wood snob. Just it's the oak for furniture has just been
Mm-hmm.
overdone up here, and especially the dark stained, high contrast gray and whatnot. I'm like, okay, I've seen enough of it. So.
Mm. Well, Rich has earned a. Yes, I got it back working. But yeah. Well, you can always put black walnut stain on it, Steve. Just tell people it's black walnut.
It's not the same.
And an elitist.
It's very much not the same.
Uh, Minnesota rustic decor. Yeah, I've got a P2. If you're talking about the X Tool P2, or you're talking about the ASMR P2. I've had both. Yeah, I use my P2, the X Tool P2, for acrylic, and that's mostly all I use it for. Occasionally, if I'm trying to line something up really, really precise, I'll put it in there because the camera in there with the close capture is very, very accurate because it's always the same distance from the material. But no, I haven't. I just been trying to catch up this week. This has been a busy week.
There's another venue you could go down.
Hmm.
You're gonna have all sorts of work for you. Your advanced retired years.
Brandy says she likes white oak too, and I can vouch for that because when she found out that I had bought a sawmill, that was kind of one of the orders that I got was if I was going to spend that money on much money on a sawmill, I had to build her a kitchen table, and you've seen it. Well, it wasn't
Mhm.
my best work because I literally used a skill saw, a job site table saw, and a planer. There was much room for improvement, but I did make a kitchen table, and she won't even let me bring it out here and like tweak it. Like she says, leave it alone the way it is. She don't want me changing it. So apparently it worked. But now that thing weighs like 800 pounds. That's probably why she don't want it brought out here. She knows I'm gonna have to call like 3 friends over to move it because I put that in there before back surgery. I don't know that
Well,
we couldn't move it right now.
and sometimes the use that builds some character is part of the charm as well too, right? So
Yeah.
I was actually tearing apart an old workbench that I had in the basement and built a better bench with some storage for my lasers. And when I flipped it over, I noticed that my kids had scribbled their names and such on there in pencil over the years. So yeah, you find some little gems like that on that furniture you've had around for a while.
Yeah. I think he means feet, but Super Duty said he needs about 63 feet of space to park for that party because he travels in his RV. So yeah. And Burn Car Print said karaoke is definitely better than dancing in spandex. I would agree.
Um, okay, didn't know that was on the table.
No, you were trying to get me to do that Ginger Billy video. Remember? You were trying to. We talked about that a couple of lives back.
Might work.
I think he
Rick's
does. I
asking.
think he does, Chris.
No. Rick's asking about 4-inch inline fan for the F1 Ultra. Any recommendations on a brand and CFMs? Um, yeah, with I don't know. I mean, the Ultra's got a smaller enclosed space, so you might be able to get by with fewer CFMs. But trying to think back to the 4-inch fans I was looking at, I was trying to get around at least I think 200 CFM out of it, and there's a couple. I've used a couple of them. I've used an AC Infinity down in the basement shop as well as Hongguan out here in this shop. Both have been performing really well. What I would look at besides that is also the type of controller it has. So one of mine has more of a, I don't know what you call it, a little digital. I have to tap the button and it goes from 0 up to 10 and then stops. And so I have to sit there and tap it to turn it on up to full. And then if I hit it one too many times, it'll shut off. And then it's like the old rotary phone. You got to start back over again. Um, whereas the one out here just has a regular, rheostat kind of knob, which is nice because then I can just twist it and it spins up and it's good to go. Even better if I could just have an on off, and I could probably just leave it on with this one and hook it into a relay or something. But yeah, depending on the distance that you're piping it out, is you're going to want a little more oomph to your fan. But I would definitely be trying to look for something in at least 200 CFM to get things moving through there. You want to empty it out quick. So
Yeah, well, I'm running the 4 inch, like 4 foot from where it goes out of the building right there, and that's a 20 foot hose. And running the F1 Ultra on the other end of that 20 foot hose with that 4 inch fan that close to the exit, it it did a really good job of keeping the debris out of there, and not building up any smoke. So,
now the Ultra has
but
its own fan in the back, right?
yeah, and I just
So
set the 4 inch as an assist at the other end of the line and set it
yeah,
all the way to its lowest setting,
sure.
just to prevent backlog in the hose, because I do have
Mhm.
20 foot of hose and it's not exactly a straight path.
Oh
So
no, I know.
but that's the way that I'm able to run a hose over to the table and test machines. Matter of fact, you can see the hose is still kind of curled up right there where I've been using it. But putting the fan on the other end where the exit is, one thing that it does help with also is, in the event that you get a pinhole somewhere in your pipe between the fan and the machine, uh, it's suction and it's not blowing, because if you put the fan all the way at the machine and you so much as get a pinhole or a cat scratches its claws on your pipe, next thing you know, you got a bellowing smokestack coming out of your piping. So that's another benefit to having that assist fan near the end of the run. Is and you can even like turn it all the way to low, or you can crank it up higher if needed, for whichever machine. But with the Ultra, even with it set all the way to low, I had no problems with vacating any of the smoke or anything. That would be 22 and a half by 30.5 is what they run around here typically. 22.5 by 30.5. And I know that measurement. I can see it in my sleep.
Yeah. Corey's given a friendly warning. Slate coasters put off lots of silica dust. That's something you can't come back from when it gets in your lungs. Um, and so, yeah, that's a very good reminder that no matter what you're working with, it's good to have some sort of dust collection pulling that air away. So even when you have these galvo style lasers and you're working with various metals and such, you definitely want to still have something collecting that, because if you're doing coins, you're working with some heavy metals that's creating those. You're doing the slate coasters, you're dealing with silica dust and such. So always be keeping in mind the particulate that this is creating, whether it be smoke or vapor or small dust particles from that stuff.
Yeah, the fan in my Ultra's gold now. Where I did that brass coin the other day, the grade on it is just like gold.
Yeah.
But David Pingle is asking, what are the names of some better AI sites? I don't really use AI other than the little bit that's built into Adobe from time to time. So I couldn't tell you.
Um, yeah, I don't. Depends on what you're using it for. If you're looking for documentation and text responses, ChatGPT has been a pretty good one. But if you're looking for images, I mean, there are definitely some ones that you can pay for. But I've played around with Microsoft's Copilot, and it starts to create a few. If you just want to start playing with it, see some of the things that it can create, that's one to play with. Outside of that, I mean, there are definitely some more, geared more towards, creating art and photography type things that you might want to play with. But it's something that I have played more so with on the. I use it a lot at work to kind of get a framework for documentation, because it's amazing what you can get it to kind of build out for you, and then you just go in and modify. So I haven't been using a lot of it for like art generation for lasers yet.
Lance is asking, what size do you make serving trays? Usually, whatever size the person says that they want it. I mean, they vary. Some folks want them small,
Yeah.
compact. Some folks want them really huge with big, robust handles. It just depends. That's a very niche specialty type product, and a lot of times people want to put their own spin on it. They want it a certain size, or hey, I saw this guy on TikTok that had this really big cutting board. How big can you make it? And I'm like, well, how much money you want to spend? I mean, if you want to spend enough money, we can make it 4 foot by 4 foot at least. But it just depends.
Yep. um,
Cedar.
the best type of wood is going to be something without a lot of grain or variations in in color. Um, so birch can be okay, but you can sometimes get some grain in there that's going to affect it. I actually like basswood for just a very white, very clear wood, but it's kind of boring at the same vein. So um, it's going to vary piece to piece because you can get some very clear birch. You can also get some very grainy birch. So cedar does do nice when you can get that nice. It has a nice depth of color, but you got to be careful because you can also get very a lot of color variations from piece to piece of cedar. So it's not like you're going to buy a whole stack and it's all going to be great for that. Um,
Well, if
but
you cut it
it
off the
does
same log, it's generally pretty consistent.
well, yeah, but I mean, you can get pieces like this, and this is cedar. This is one of my boxes that's engraved, and you get a really nice contrast, a really good burn. But then you can get some pieces like if I tried to engrave it here, I've got this
Yeah.
little variation there that you can run into. So that's just the stuff to look out for in the wood.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's about selecting your wood. You want to try to have the most consistent, minimally invasive grain possible. So if you have to have a lot of grain, you want it to be consistent across the image, not wavy. But you want it to be very minimalist, where you can't really see the grain. But like I said, if you can see it, try to make it consistent at least. Like Steve said, those knots, because those knots do not burn as well in cedar as the actual wood itself does. Uh, Samuel, I've used several brands of CA glue, the Star Bond, and then I got some at Workbench Con from Total Boat, and it's been working pretty well too. So it's probably all the same stuff, to be honest, just different container.
So I've been using CA glue probably for I don't know 35 years, and I've definitely seen differences in certain types of glues. The one that I consistently go back to is a company called Bob Smith Industries. They do sell on Amazon, but they're also in a lot of hobby and craft stores. Actually, when I used to run my model airplane business, Foam Flight, I actually had my own branded glue from them, and I'm still running through a few bottles left over. But that stuff for me has had the best consistency and shelf life, and I felt pretty good price. Now, I also have used a lot of Star Bond, especially when you get into woodworking. They have different. Um, they actually have some colored CAs. So, like if you're doing some knot filling and such, that's kind of nice. And they've been decent, but they I think they're a little more expensive than some. Um, but then there's been some that are just junk. They never set up even with accelerator. I don't like having to use accelerator if I don't need to. A good CA glue should set up within reasonable amount of time. But yeah, I check out Bob Smith Industries on Amazon as an option. It's a glue that I mean, they've been around. Like I say, I've been using it for 35 years. They've been around that or longer. So I'll try to find that real quick and drop a link as well. But that's one that I feel really comfortable recommending.
All right. Kevin's asking a question. Said maybe a stupid question, but Can I use my dust collection to my Ultra when it gets here? Rigid wet vac with a dust separator for dust collection. I would strongly recommend against anything that has a lot of real fine sawdust in it. I would recommend probably not doing it with a laser. And reason being, just look up flower explosions, like flower factory explosions and dust explosions in cabinet shops. Sawdust, especially pure sawdust with the right oxygen mix, a small spark manages to get in there, that thing's going to turn into a pipe bomb. So I would avoid that. I mean, if you had a brand new shop vac that had never had sawdust in it, that okay, but that sawdust could potentially, if the air mixture gets just right and you introduce a spark, you could be in for a really really bad day. So what do you think, Steve? Good idea, bad idea?
Um, yeah, I agree with you what you say there. The other thing is depending on your vacuum, it might not be really rated for excessive continuous use. um, I've actually had some shop vacs they get pretty hot and they'll burn out if you. I've had this on just running them for CNC machines for dust collection as well. So um, you can use it, but yeah, you still gotta. I mean, where are you piping the smoke to as well? You're gonna have to make sure you got an outlet for that and such. So
There you go. You're the pro. How do you do it?
uh, well, there's a few different things you can do, but it really one of the key things is to make sure there's not a lot of glue. Like a lot of people will use the glue bottle and they'll have that tip running right along their material, and it tends to like build up on it. Um, and then they'll put the cap on right away, and then the glue doesn't have a chance to sink back down into the bottle. So I tend to try to keep mine. Um, try to be cognizant of that. So whenever I get done, try to make sure that you give a little bit of negative pressure back into the bottle, or blow it, just squeeze it a little bit out onto a paper towel or something. Just try to make sure that it stays fairly clear. You can also put like a T-pin or something in the end just to help it. The other thing is that what really hardens up the CA glue is uh, even the moisture in the air. So if you can keep it in like a sealed mason jar or even in the fridge, which is going to be like a lower humidity environment, that'll help it from hardening up both in the bottle but also on that tip. But most of them will give you a couple of extra bottles or a couple of tips or caps where you can get them. But also keep in mind that you want to try to use that glue in a timely amount. If you're not using it very often, don't go buy the 8-ounce bottle. Get the 1-ounce bottle, and then buy a new one when you need it, because over time it eventually will get clogged up. So, and yeah, as Mark mentioned there, a little bit of acetone will help keep that clear as well. So, where'd you run off to, Clack?
I had to walk outside and check the moon. I'm back. All right. But yeah, CA glue. I've started using it a lot more, especially with the laser stuff. But I've got the star bun, like the three different, like the fast set, medium, and then the slow set. And I've also got that stuff from Total Boat, and it's actually doing pretty good. It's more of a medium. It's not the fast set, but it's not the slow set either.
More and more for this stuff, I use the a thick CA. It's got a little slower cure time, but it also isn't. I medium for some companies is like water, and for others
Yeah.
it's a little more viscous. I like it to not just completely soak into the grain right away. I like it to kind of almost pool like a good wood glue will, and then as you put the joint together, it kind of squeezes out a little bit, gives you some time to wipe it down before it cures. So I have geared more towards the thick varieties in what I'm using now. With my model airplane stuff, I used thin all the time because you'd want it to soak into that balsa and make an instant joint, but not so much in woodworking as much.
Burn Car Print's gonna make a bong for his. Uh,
Yeah.
that water would be nasty. That would be awful. But I mean, I guess in a way, maybe you could do like a, I mean, you could do a sand. Uh-oh, stand by. Let's work.
You, you also got to think about the fact that you're going to have to push a lot of air through there, and so while that system could work, it also, um, keeping up with it and making sure that it's extracting the air from your enclosure and getting it moved through the system could take quite the equipment there. So yeah, it's definitely a concept that would work, but trying to get the volume through there is what I'd be concerned about. So let's see what else we got here. Hopefully, it's not too important of a call that Clack's getting, but we all know his job. So um, I'll take this moment to talk about our laser engraver community map. So if you aren't aware, we have a map that's out there that you can check out. There's a link in both of our channels to it, and there's also a form that you can fill out if you want to drop your name, your business name, your username, whatever you want, and then city state. It doesn't need to be your exact address, but put that out there, and we're filling up our map. We've got a lot of pins in North America, but we've also getting more and more in Europe. Of course, our friends down in Australia, New Zealand, and such. So feel free to fill out that form, drop in your pin, and next time we're traveling to an event or whatnot, and we happen to be in the area, we'll look up, and if there's enough pins, we'll try to create a meetup there. Or if you want to check out to see who's in your area and want to reach out to them, that's another cool thing as well. So, but check out those links down below. It doesn't auto populate; I have to reload it, but I usually try to do that a few times around our live stream as well. So. We've got over 500 pins there already. It's great to see that continue to grow, and we've had it going since I think it was right around I think it was between Thanksgiving and Christmas last year we started this. So we're about 6 months into it. So we'll see where we're at a full year, and maybe we'll get that map really flooded with those pins. So
Yep. Sorry, I'm back. I'm back. My other job. Stepped in. Uh, that's why I'm always tethered to the phone, no matter
yep.
where I'm at, what I'm doing.
Luckily, I haven't had too many of those calls from my work recently. So
Yeah, mine goes and comes.
mhm.
But you know, you have to kind of filter it, and then if it needs to, it goes on up the chain and go from there. So it's still 14 more months. Still got to keep doing it. Uh, but yeah, it's nice to see the map growing, and I have noticed it continues to fill up. It's pretty cool, and just like with the event coming up in Atlanta that y'all were talking about earlier, if I was to go over there, it's something that kind of gives me an idea of, where I could stop and maybe meet somebody at the Waffle House or go grab some chicken livers with them or whatever the case may be. Like when we start, once I do retire and say like go to visit Steve and like take a bunch of his black walnut out of his shop, that'll give me an idea of, hey, if I stop in this town along the way, maybe I can meet with these guys or go hang out at this guy's shop or whatever, to try to socialize and just make myself available to those that might not be able to drive all the way to Alabama. So it'll be a cool
Mhm.
thing as time goes on. I think it'll benefit us more. Right now, it's just kind of cool. Do do
Yeah.
do do. 1200 CFM greenhouse blower. Woo! Yeah. One thing to consider is if you're sucking air out of your workspace and blowing it outside, in essence, what goes out must come in, or else you form vacuum. So if you're really really overkilling it with the exhaust fan, your air conditioner or heater is going to hate you, uh, because if you're blowing 10 cubic feet of air out this way, then 10 cubic feet of air has to come in here somewhere through the cracks and crevices under the door between the floorboards. However it can get in, it's going to get in because you're going to create a vacuum inside your building, and it's just going to come in. So keep that in mind. Overkill. I'm a overkill advocate on most things, but living in the deep south where it gets to be 100 degrees outside, I have to be careful not to overkill too much when I'm ventilating outside of using and Like my large enclosure that runs like all day most days, I've got it vented to where it has its own vent that goes outside that opens when it creates vacuum. And so it pulls air directly from outside, circulates it through the enclosure, and blows it straight back outside to avoid all my air conditioning, being blown out in the yard. Now, where Steve lives, 30 degrees below zero might not be a good idea. But here, it's it works.
Now, I should have saved this, but I was doing some Facebook scrolling the other day, and
Mm-mm.
oddly enough, it was from some like Alabama weather something something, and they showed a map of record highs in July, and believe it or not, Minnesota's record high in July is higher than Alabama's.
Oh, it's just because y'all using that metrics up there in Canada.
Hey, Minnesota existed before Canada. That's northern Minnesota. It's not southern Canada.
Okay, I got you. I
Oh,
hear you.
hey, here we go. Here we go. I have found it. Let me see if I can get this figured out so I can show it. Come on. There we go. And see, weather nerds of Alabama. 115 in Minnesota, 111 in Alabama.
Yeah,
So
but y'all had 115 for like 10 minutes. It's been that hot here like the whole week.
I'm just saying, got hotter up here.
Well, yeah, for a day, and then the next day it was 70. You can't count that. Look up the average
Hey,
temperature.
hey, this is coming from weather nerds of Alabama. I mean, you got to yell at your own people for this. Now
Okay,
it's
I'm gonna have to do so. I'm gonna put a PowerPoint together for you guys. All right, summer high temperatures in Minnesota average in the mid 80s. Seriously, mid 80s. All right, let's see. Let's do Alabama now. Mid 90s. Yeah, the average daytime high in Alabama is 90.8. All right, so there you go. Settled. Average of 5 degrees cooler. Oh, I got guys. We got to get Steve down here in like August, like the July to August, and like put him on a sawmill. See how long it takes him to pass out. Michael said, your thermometer was sitting on top of your grill."
I'm just saying, I will fully admit that I am not a hot weather individual. I was telling this to my dad the other day. I'm like, tropics are not for me. I would not survive in the heat and humidity of any sort of tropical area.
Yeah,
It's why I suffer up here in the winter. But we also have some of the most extreme temperature differences between our summer and our winters. So, it gets really hot up here. It gets really cold.
yeah. Michael, I appreciate you. We appreciated getting to meet everybody at the Peach Jam. Also, for those of you that may or may not be coming through this area, or you know, maybe in the area, I did update my calendar on Facebook the other day. I put a couple of events on there. I've got one coming up in September, and well as one coming up in October. So if you're in the area, or if you're going to be passing through, you might want to take a look at that. Uh, I'll be, like I said, Brandy will actually be with me at both events from what I can see so far, from what we've determined so far. So if you've never got to meet her, she'll be there. She was at Peach Jam, but she was too busy working. So yeah, Aaron said his 8-inch Infinity will make it hot in there. And like I said, now that's why I like variable speed fans also, because you only dial up as much as you need to keep the enclosure clear, and then quit. Don't go get it overboard. There's no need to be trying to suck the material off the work bed. You just want enough to keep the smoke from accumulating to keep it moving. Norbert said they're gonna have 112 twice this week. Now that's hot right there. I don't know where that is, but that's hot. Like the average, like the what do they call it? The real field temperature here stays in the hundreds. So I think maybe that's what you're going
Yeah,
by.
well, I mean, that's the other thing people forget is up here in Minnesota, it's, I mean, land of 10,000 lakes, and the rest of the area is swampland. So, I mean, it's stinking humid here, and so when we get into the 90s and hundreds, I mean, you add on the humidity to that, and it's just ridiculous. My dad's down
Yeah.
in Arizona, and I've been there, and it's hot, but it's definitely a different heat, and
Oh yeah,
that's
I
why
went
I
to
think
Vegas and it
tropics.
was like nothing. I was like, this is 100 degrees. It feels like 70.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that humidity is just a killer, and then you get out into a cornfield. That's the bad thing. I've been out walking a cornfield trying to find a downed airplane, model airplane, not a real one, but
Oh.
and just those cornfields just hold in the humidity, and I mean, you start having trouble breathing. So it's
Yeah,
something else.
it's 81 degrees currently right now and it's dark. And it's 87% humidity currently. So it's
Yeah,
pretty
well,
buggy.
you're
Like
right off the Gulf there,
when
so
you walk outside, when you walk outside and you instantly start sweating that it's humid because the sweat goes nowhere.
yeah.
She says, "Be careful." Steve is Steve. Steve will have me plowing your driveway in January. I don't want no part of that. I can't. I wouldn't make it. I will consent to the fact that I could not handle that. I just couldn't. It would be like novel and cool for maybe a day or two. I'd be done with it. There would be a U-Haul truck outside. We'd be moving. Can't do
Mm. Yeah, you'd miss out on making the snow angels.
it. We make sand angels in my yard year round.
Yeah, well, sand gets stuck, snow melts.
It does, especially when you cut the grass. That's why around here we cut the grass and then we go get a shower because that sand will find its way everywhere. So
Yeah, yeah. So we've gone through the weather portion of the live stream. We're
hey,
rolling up towards. We got about 15 minutes left. If people have questions, weather
hey,
related or not.
they're bringing the content. They're talking about the
Yeah,
weather. We always say the comments bring the content, and it's all
it
about the weather right now. So
it it,
hey,
it sure is. But yeah, if you got questions for us or comments or whatever, go ahead and put them in. And if we missed them earlier, we apologize. Go ahead and put them back in. We try to get to them all, and get
yeah.
your questions answered. So, but
But but yeah, until somebody does post a question or changes the subject or whatever. So what is on the agenda at the Vintauri's workshop this week? I know you said you're still trying to piece everything back together.
Yeah, I'm still putting some things together, but I am working on some projects. I have a surprise project that hopefully will come out later this week. That I'm not going to talk much about. But also working on. Well, actually, hold on. I'll give you a preview real quick here.
Oh, we got a preview, guys.
Okay, so this is something I have made in the past, and was just kind of digging through some of my older files, both for CNC and lasers. But uh, you've done a lot with the bamboo pens, and I've done a variety with some others. But wanted to create a simple pen box, and so I've done this in the past, and these are mid-process. I'm just starting to put some spray on finish, but this is just a layered file. And so it'll hold a pen. This is sized for the Amazon bamboo pens. And the top just kind of keys in there. And I'm actually going to be filling these in with laser cut felt pieces as well. So this is just made out of some
Fancy.
layered. Yeah, this is just made out of some layered Baltic birch plywood, but you could use any material. Um, and then this is one where I didn't sand the edges, just kind of to the two different varieties there. When you kind of oil this up, it actually looks pretty cool. But you could also leave the nice contrast for end, and then whatever. Oops, upside down. Whatever engraving on there. So company logo or just kind of a generic paw print one, and then you can customize the pen on the inside. I've done this with turn pens as well. So hopefully going to drop this one out later this week as well. And then of course I'll offer up the file, which you can kind of modify this shape to various pens that you might have. But just something to kind of step it up a little bit, make it a little more of a customized gift box. But you can still do with typical material. So I'll have that coming out here. Hopefully, well, it depends on which project I get done first. So I've got a couple of project videos this week, but I'm also I've been working on, and I've teased Sculpt Fund SFA9. They are sending me a replacement part just to make sure that that's working okay. I'm hoping that maybe shows up tomorrow, and then I'll get that finished up. That's a it's an open frame gantry style laser. It's a 40 watt with the switch down to 20 watt. And I've been pretty impressed with some of the things. You've mentioned it before that people must be listening. They've done a number of improvements to this laser that I appreciate seeing. So looking forward to getting that wrapped up, and then also then starting to work on their they've got their rotary device, the RA Max, I think is what they call it. So that'll be coming. And I don't know when I'll get any content out on this. This isn't a sponsored thing or anything, but I do have another 3D printer coming, and it might show up tomorrow. It's the Bamboo Labs A1. It's their small. It's their small bed slinger. It's on sale right now for $199, and I have the old Creality Ender 2 Pro, which is a similar form factor to this, but this is like a really nice upgrade. The Creality 2 Pro has been discontinued, so I picked this one up. I wanted to kind of do it as a test because at that price, when people ask me what's a good starter 3D printer, I think this one might be it. So I'm going to do a few tests with it, play with it a bit. Again, I mean, I bought this with my own cash. This isn't a sponsored thing or not. So kind of excited for that one to come out as well. So yeah, I've got a few things. Like I said, I'm jumping back into some of my projects. I've got a few other things kind of noodling around in the brain as well. So hopefully we'll keep those rolling.
Cool. Well, this was sent to me just to use, and I'm gonna use it in a project video, and it's made for lasering, and it also says it works for sublimation. And they just sent me an email and was like, "Hey, we want to send you some if you'd like to try it out. Would you be willing to try it?" And I'm like, "Sure. What do y'all want?" And they're like, "Oh, we just want you to try it." So, okay. So we'll probably just use it in a project video just to see, just kind of fact check it because I think it is cool. They sent a lot of different colors. I got the black walnut. It's this matte looking, almost, I guess, kind of a glossy black. There is some white, and this is plywood. It's like painted plywood, but it's MDF core, of course. And let's see what else I got in here. There's your favorite, birch, or it could be oak, maybe. I don't know. No, I think that's probably the oak.
Yeah, that looks more oak-like. Yep.
And then this stuff, which almost looks like the walls of a camper. I'm not sure what this is supposed to be. It's got like a pattern, but it kind of looks like that stuff they put on the walls of campers. So, so we'll be playing around with that. I figured if what they say about it's true, this would actually be some pretty cool material to make like Christmas ornaments and stuff out of. It's a little more than my 4.5 millimeter Luan, but if you compare it to other craft plywoods and laser plywoods, it's not terribly expensive. So, but you're not going to want to be making big boxes and stuff out of it. You're going to want to make small things that you could maximize your profit out of the sheet. And with the sheets being basically the size of a sheet of paper, it's going to be suitable for almost any laser that we would use. I don't know that like the F1 or the Ultra. I don't know how well it would cut it, but we may just run around and test it with every machine. I don't know. We'll see. Brandy said that color's called linen.
Hmm.
Linen. Yeah, didn't know that. But
Cool.
yeah, so we're doing that. I'm gonna try to integrate that into maybe some XCS tips and tricks how to use. One big thing that I keep getting from my Etsy shop, guys, is the canvas button. If you do not know what the canvas button is in XCS, please, please go learn what the canvas button is. So many people have been messaging me, "Hey, I bought your file and there's only two of them, and you had like listed 18 things in the description." And I'm like, "Did you click the canvases?" And then I don't hear back from them. So that has been a big problem with people not recognizing the uses for like a canvas button. So I've thought about maybe doing a video and using that as an opportunity to point the use of that button out to everybody.
Hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah. So first off, thanks Burn Carve Print for the accolades on that. I dropped a video just getting started in Lightburn one, and I realize a lot of people are beyond this. It really was a here's just kind of the very first things to do, how to make sure you're getting the right version of Lightburn, and then how to get your laser connected to it. And then kind of understanding the basics of a fill, a line, and an image, and playing around with that. And then I stepped through just making a keychain as just kind of a let's get you started, let's get you comfortable with a few operations in Lightburn. And it was a little bit longer, but wanted to make sure the information was out there. And maybe break that up into some smaller bites. But I think both you and I have some good tips and things like that if we can work them into projects or even just standalone
Yeah.
kind of just informational tutorial, quick tip type videos. They'll be hopefully be appreciated by people and help just continue to spread a little bit of nuggets of information of ways to do things in XCS versus Lightburn versus whatever. So
Yeah. Of course, I lean heavy Lightburn. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you I am biased for most machines. Now, there's some machines that I just feel more comfortable with their native software, but for the most part, file design, I prefer Lightburn. But you can do a lot with some of the new softwares that are coming out, especially XCS. They're slowly getting there. They're slowly getting the tools
mhm.
implemented, and I look for it to continue to evolve because from the Laser Box Basic that me and Steve started with, which was basically a import and burn software, it's came a long way.
Yeah,
So,
yep,
but anyway,
yeah.
it
I
is 1 hour and 58 minutes. So last minute, last call for comments. Oh, by the way, Brian, sir, well, crap,
Did you break your buttons?
my buttons ain't working. Pause, pause. How did that happen? How did it happen that my buttons quit working?
Well,
Uh,
it just knows
Hang on, I
it
got
it,
this. I
it
got
knows
this.
best.
Where'd his comment go? I done lost it.
Oh, fine, you got to throw that back up there. There it is.
There you go. There you go. And I even tested everything before we went live, and for some reason, I guess it went to sleep because I haven't used it. But yeah, hopefully things will get a little bit better. I really, really want to do some more project stuff here in the next week or two because I'm a little burnt out on the cookie cutter stuff.
Yeah.
Metrics add-on for laser. No, I haven't. I've saw where they've changed up some stuff, but I will say this: Vectric, as far as file design, I've gotten to where I'm probably just as versatile in Vectric as I am in Lightburn, but I'm still relatively new to Vectric, so I avoid trying to do like tutorials and stuff like that. Now I don't mind showing you how I do things on my projects, but I'm still learning Vectric. And about the time I thought I had it figured out, they started adding things to it. So I'm still trying to play catch up on that. I don't know if y'all saw it or not, but I have been testing out the Zero Flute bit from Cody, And if you're into CNCs and you want some bits, go check out the Jenny Bit Collection. They show up a lot in my shorts feed. So if you're not watching my shorts, you're missing out on the genies. But I was doing a little bit of, I took a piece of aluminum tonight and was just trying to come up with some workable speeds and feeds before I started a project with them. Because I guess because it's so new, Cody didn't do what he normally does and write the speeds and feeds on there. So I had to go back and just reference one of my other zero flute bits that I had and derive some settings from there. But I was actually able to add about 30% speed increase, and it seems to be doing a good job. I'm going to do a few more test passes before I throw it into a project. But I went by my local machine shop few months ago and picked up like some little scrap pieces of aluminum plate. So I have like assorted blocks and sizes of aluminum. Because for like $10, I walked out of there with my arms full of these just random aluminum plates and stuff. And so I used a piece of it today and just kind of flattened it, just did a surface pass on it, just to get my speeds adjusted.
Cool.
But
Yeah, I need to. I've got a couple plates of aluminum, and I need to. I know I had some thicker acrylic somewhere that I was going to throw in there. So
did I tell you what I found out?
no.
Well, I have people that sometimes have scrap material from projects and stuff, such as, you know, high security windows,
Mm-hmm.
and I can get some 1 inch acrylic, small cut
Ooh,
off
nice.
pieces. Yes,
Cool.
I'm working, or Lexan rather, which is basically acrylic. But yeah, I'm gonna try to get some of that. I really want to do like a serving bowl on the CNC out of Lexan. I think that would be cool. Sand it to where it's clear. That'd be awesome. I think. So we'll see.
That'd be interesting.
Oh, have you used it on thin aluminum zero flute genie? Not the thinner aluminum yet. I used a block today. It was a pretty good size little block of aluminum. It's probably a ½ inch thick. I did that today, and it was throwing chips. And I don't mean little shavings. I mean it was throwing chips. I turned my dust collection off because I was afraid those little pieces of aluminum would get hung up in my dust collector and cause a problem. So I turned the dust collection off, and man, that thing, that bit was slinging them all over the shop. So I can't lay in the floor because if I do, I'm liable to have little pieces of aluminum cut me. But yeah, it's a heck of a little bit so far. I've used two other brands of zero flutes, and this is the fastest speed I've been able to pull off so far with this bit. Now, maybe that I'm just getting more comfortable with the machine. Who knows? But it did a good job regardless. Let's see. I'll show you the video here. But yeah, done a good job. My machine is not necessarily trimmed out for doing metal work. So if anybody else noticed that maybe I need a little bit of trimming, don't worry. I stick mostly to wood. But it's actually smooth. It gets those little ghost lines in it for some reason, but you can't feel them. You can just see them.
Yeah.
But it's probably not trimmed perfectly. I 3D printed my trimming tool, so there's that. Could you actually hear the audio on that?
No.
Good, because I don't want to get another copyright strike. I didn't think about it until I did it, and I'm like, uh-oh. Yeah, well, Chris,
Well.
it actually did like little chips. It looks almost like some of that silver glitter you would buy, but they're little curved squares of metal. It's not shavings. Like I mean, they're pretty good size. But if you watch that video, you can see how big the little chips are. But I was trying to adjust the spindle speed and the travel speed to make sure I didn't start, you know, heating up the bit or just scratching it or what. I wanted that chip load to be just right, and that I don't have an air assist wired up to the CNC, but luckily, the one benefit of having an air cooled spindle is it's basically an air assist. And then I was kind of using my dust collection sweeper to kind of sweep it off the edge of the material and keep it semi clean. So it worked out pretty good. But I'm really not set up for doing a lot of metal uh, milling. That's just not what I do a lot of. But I do think it would be pretty cool to make maybe a brand. What I'm thinking is maybe take and make myself like a Clack Shack brand so I could like heat it up with a torch and burn stuff with it if I wanted to. Not that I can't do it with a laser, but project.
That's why you bought the lasers.
It's a project, but we'll see. But
Yeah.
I also like to play around with Lexan on the CNC and then engrave it on the lasers or engrave it with the CNC. So, just like I said, I like doing new things that I haven't done before. So that's where I'm kind of headed with that. But
Mhm.
anyway, guys, 2 hours and 5 minutes. So y'all got 5 minutes of bonus time free of charge tonight. Like I said, we're going to try to, I know I'm working on trying to get some different content out other than just here's this new tool. Uh, Even though like I said, I am very thankful that I get to test them out and use them and all that. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but it does it does kind of get a little redundant for you guys probably sometimes. So just bear with me. Just trying to broaden my understanding of how lasers work and what all is out there. So when you guys ask, I can give you an informed, educated opinion from my perspective, which could be different than yours, but whatever.
Cool stuff.
All right.
Yeah. Well, we're at the end of the show. So
Yep. Last call, guys. Chris, anybody? But anyway, y'all behave. Have a good day. 4th of July is going to be upon us before long. Being that I don't party or go out or do anything like that, who knows? There may be a 4th of July in the shack. I don't know that we can fire fireworks in here necessarily, but we could make some smoke and have blue lasers going everywhere. So maybe this week I'm gonna get 2 days off for the 4th. So that's probably going to be when y'all start seeing some content come out. And so stay tuned. If you hadn't already, hit the subscribe button to my channel, Steve's channel, both. Make sure you got notifications turned on. That way you know when the good stuff comes out and you don't have to hear about it in the Sunday Night Lives. But this whole situation at work's blowing up, so I got to go handle that as well. But I'll let Steve sign us out.
yeah, well, everybody, thanks for stopping by tonight. It's always fun. As we said earlier, you guys bring the content, and so I hope everybody has a great week. If you're in the U.S., I hope you have a great and safe 4th of July. If you're in the U.K., I hope you have a wonderful, ungrateful colonial treason day. And if you're in the rest of the world, I hope you have a good Thursday. Otherwise, we will see you back next Sunday, and looking forward to it. Otherwise, have a good week.